The CompuTutor series is designed to help you learn popular applications as well as your operating system. You will be taken slowly through the learning points. This tape is divided into lessons. At the end of each lesson, you should try and apply what you have learned on your computer, if one is available. Then rewind the tape and review all points of special interest. To help you locate any point quickly, there is a Fast Find reference guide, which is also color-coded, displayed on the corner of each screen. This corresponds to the reference guide on the inside cover of your video box.
Hello. Welcome to this video tutorial, Introduction to Microsoft Word for Windows version 6. Microsoft Word for Windows is a powerful word processor that allows your documents to be displayed in a graphical format so that you can see how your document is laid out before you print it. Microsoft Word for Windows uses a graphical environment called Microsoft Windows version 3.1. We can mix text and graphics to produce stunning documents, and Microsoft Word for Windows contains utilities such as the spell checker and the thesaurus, which can make the content of your document more professional looking. In this introduction to Microsoft Word for Windows, we will assume that you have some basic skills with Windows. If not, these skills can be learned in our CompuTutor Introduction to Microsoft Windows version 3.1 video tutorial. You will need these basic skills to do such things as using your mouse, accessing pull-down menus, and opening and closing down programs. Well, now that we've got our machine powered up and ready to go, if you're ready, let's start Lesson 1. In Lesson 1, I will show you how to install Microsoft Word for Windows. I will explain the different program icons. Then I will go through Microsoft Word for Windows front end or interface. Microsoft Word for Windows takes up about 25 megabytes on your hard disk. It also needs 6 to 8 megabytes of RAM or memory in your machine. Microsoft Word for Windows comes on high-density 3.5-inch disks. Now let's look at how to start the installation process. There are two ways to install Microsoft Word for Windows, either from the DOS prompt or from within Windows. If you're at the DOS prompt, we can type in win, W-I-N space, where you are installing it from, either A: or B: /setup. If you are installing it from within Windows, we go to the Program Manager's menu bar, choose File, and then Run. We then type in either A: or B: /setup. Then select OK or press Enter. The Word for Windows installation program then starts loading. The first installation screen we see welcomes us to the Word 6 setup. Select OK to continue. If it's the first time that you've installed Microsoft Word for Windows, it will then ask you to insert your name and company name. If you've previously installed Word for Windows, this screen will appear. We will select OK to continue. The next screen displays the Word for Windows serial number. We should fill in this information on a registration card. Select OK now. The next screen asks us where we wish to install Word. If there is no reason to change the directory and hard disk, leave at C:\WinWord. Then select OK. The next screen appears asking us which type of installation we would like. The typical will install Microsoft Word for Windows with the most common options. The complete or custom installation will only install the options that we select, and the laptop installation will install the minimum necessary options. We'll select complete or custom installation. And we can see now the options which we can install from. We can install the Word program, the drawing files, the help files, and the tools. If there is more than one option underneath each item, we can select and then change the option. This will display another screen in which we can choose to select or deselect certain options. Everything is fine now, and we'll select OK. This screen also displays the space required on the specified drive and the space available. Everything is fine now, and we'll select Continue. In the next dialog box, if we select Yes, it will enable the WordPerfect commands within Microsoft Word. If we select No, this option will not be available. We'll select Yes. The next dialog box asks us which group we wish to add Word to. We can add it to the Microsoft Office group, or we can create a separate Word group by typing in the name. We'll type in a new name and then select Continue. Microsoft Word for Windows Release 6 will then start copying the necessary files from the floppy disks onto the hard disk. Useful information is displayed on the screen at this time. You will be asked to swap disks in and out to complete the installation process. The installation process will take approximately 30 minutes to complete, depending on your machine type. Finally, we are told that the installation process is completed. If we press Enter or OK, we are returned to the Windows front end. We can see the Word for Windows installation program has created a Word for Windows group, and there are icons in this program group. The first icon or menu picture is the Word for Windows program. The dialog editor allows us to create dialog boxes for Word for Windows macros. The Word README Help contains late-breaking information on the release of Word for Windows. It also contains some tips on solving some common problems. And finally, the Word Setup allows us to install and deinstall certain parts of Word for Windows. We can use this program to install new features at any time. Now let's have a look at Word for Windows front end or interface. Let's start Word for Windows by double-clicking on its icon. We can access functions within Word for Windows either by using the mouse or by using the keyboard to access its pull-down menus. In this introduction to Word for Windows, we'll be using the mouse to access all these functions. I can use the mouse to do everything in Word for Windows, except, of course, typing the documents. There are 3 important tasks we do using the mouse. We can point, drag, or click using the mouse. To point, all we do is move the mouse across the screen. To click, we press our left mouse button on an item or function we would like to do. And finally, to drag, we press and hold down the left mouse button and move the mouse. One way to show you dragging is to highlight one of the menu bar's functions and then drag your mouse across the menu bar. If you're not familiar with these functions, review the Compututor Introduction to Microsoft Windows 3.1 and use some of the games included in Microsoft Windows 3.1. Have fun! The games are included to help you learn the functions of the mouse. When we start Word for Windows, we see this interface or screen. The top bar of this screen is called the title bar. It tells you the name of the program you are running on and the document you are working on. On the right-hand side of the screen, we have 2 buttons. An up-down arrow, which is called the Maximize or Restore button, and the down arrow, which is called the Minimize button. When Word for Windows is in full screen mode, the right-hand button is the Restore button with the up-down arrow. When we click this button, Word for Windows is restored to its original size. The right-hand button is then changed to an up arrow. If we choose this button now, the window is exploded to the full screen. If we select the down arrow, Word for Windows is minimized to an icon. We can double-click on the icon and Word for Windows is exploded to the full screen. On the left-hand side of the title bar, we have the title bar's icon. Beneath the title bar, we have the action or menu bar, where we can choose any of the Word for Windows menus. For example, we can select the Format or Table menu. Under the menu bar, we have the toolbar, ribbon toolbar, and ruler. At the bottom of the screen, we have the status bar, and on the right-hand side and bottom of the editing area, we have the scroll bars. The scroll bars are used to move through the document. The center part of the screen is used to type or edit documents. Let's look in more detail at the Word for Windows front end. Under the title bar, we have the action or menu bar, which contains a number of pull-down menus. We can access any of these pull-down menus by using the mouse to click on any of the menus, or by using the keyboard by pressing the Alt key and the underlined character in the menu name. This will display the pull-down menu. We can choose any of the options on these menus by moving the mouse pointer down to the option and clicking the left mouse button once. The File menu allows us to create a new document, close, save, and print documents. The Edit menu allows us to undo our last keystroke, copy, cut, and paste text, and find or replace text. The View menu allows us to control what we see actually on the screen. For example, we can zoom in and out of a document by choosing the Zoom option. The Insert menu is used to tell Word for Windows to insert information into the document, for example, a page break and the date and time. The Format menu allows us to change the way the document is displayed, allowing us to bold or italicize our phrases, for example. The Tools menu contains a number of setup options and utilities, such as the spell checker, the grammar checker, and the thesaurus, and certain other options. The Table menu allows us to insert, among other things, a table of numbers inside our document. The Window menu allows us to create a new window or arrange documents already opened in memory. It also allows us to choose any document that is already in memory. The final option is our Help menu. It gives us help information about Word for Windows. The bar underneath our action or menu bar is called a toolbar. This bar contains a number of buttons, which are shortcuts that enable us to do things quickly. Let's take a look at a number of these buttons. As you can see, when we move our mouse pointer to any of these buttons, an explanation of these buttons appears. The first button allows us to open a new document, to open an existing document, and to save a document. These next three buttons allow you to print preview, and to spell check the document. The next four buttons allows you to cut, copy, and paste information into our clipboard. The final button of these four is the Format Painter, which allows us to place the format of our text on another text. You will see this later on in the Compututor Advanced Guide to Word for Windows. The next two buttons allows us to undo and redo our last keystrokes or actions. The next button is called the Auto Format button, which allows us to attach certain formats to our document. The next button is the Auto Text, which allows us to insert commonly used phrases as abbreviations. When we then press the auto text, the full word or phrase is displayed. The next two buttons allows us to insert a table and insert Microsoft Excel worksheets. This next button allows us to change the amount of columns that we see on our page. These next two buttons are to do with drawing and charting. This button allows us to show or hide some typing codes such as paragraph marks and tabs. This button allows us to zoom in and out of our document. And finally, this last button allows us to get help on any area of our screen. If we select this button and then choose an area which we want to get help on that area or button will appear. The ribbon is actually another toolbar. On this ribbon toolbar or formatting toolbar, we are able to choose the style of the text. This next area allows us to choose the type style and the size of our text, whether it's bold, italic, or underlined. Whether it's left aligned, centered, or right aligned, or fully justified. These next two buttons allow you to format your text as numbering or as bullet points. We are able to increase or decrease indents, and finally we are able to show borders around our text or graphics. There are other toolbars which we can access. If we press our right mouse button on an area of our toolbar, a pop-up menu appears where we are able to choose from a list of toolbars. Underneath the toolbar area, we have the ruler. It tells us where the margins are and where the tabs will be displayed. The status line at the bottom of the screen is used to display information about the document and Word for Windows. As you can see, this is page 1, section 1, and it tells us that this is page 1 of 1. When we are editing a long document, this might read 15 of 20 pages. The next area of information is used to display where we are on that page. As we can see, we are on line number 5, column 6. The next area tells us the time. The next records macros, marks revisions, brings us into the extend mode, into type over mode, and the last area displays help for WordPerfect users. These buttons to the left of the horizontal scroll bar show us which view mode we are in. At the moment, we're in the normal view mode. We can choose the page layout or the outline mode. We'll see these modes later on in our video, and we'll also use the different menu bars and scroll bars.
In Lesson 1, we have looked at the Word for Windows installation program. We have briefly looked at the different program icons, and we have looked at the Word for Windows front end or interface. Now stop this video and take the opportunity to review all items of interest.
In Lesson 2, we will learn how to create a document, load a file, type in some text, edit the text, and then save the document. I've been busy typing in a letter. In the title bar, we can see that I'm working on Document 1. This is the default name of a document, if a name has not been given to it yet. You give the document a name when saving it for the first time. This name can also be incorporated into the document window if you're not looking at the document in full page mode. The flashing vertical line is our cursor position. We can move the cursor position by either using the mouse or by using the cursor keys. This would be an excellent time to type in your own document. If we want to create a new blank line, we move our cursor down to where we want to insert the new blank line, and then press Enter or Return. If we want to indent the text, we press the Tab key, and then we can start typing. We should continue typing until the end of the paragraph. As you type past the end of the line, Word for Windows automatically wraps the text onto the next line. When you finish a sentence, you should continue typing. When we complete a paragraph, we press the Enter or Return key to move down to the next line. We can press the Enter key again to create a new blank line. Pressing Enter tells Word for Windows that we want to go to the next line and start a new paragraph. I'll now complete my letter. I've now completed my letter, and at this stage, I'll save the document. To save a document, bring the mouse pointer to the File menu, click, and move down to Save As. Click again, and then enter a file name. Word for Windows automatically gives the document a doc extension. When we finish typing in the file name, press OK. Word for Windows then saves the file to the hard disk. We will then be brought back into the Word for Windows front end. As you can see, the title bar now has the name of the document we just saved. Save your documents regularly, as you never know when the power of the machine might fail. Now, there are a few things I'd like to change in my document. The first word I'd like to change is my bank manager's name. I'll bring my cursor down to the beginning of the word Susan and then press the Delete key 5 times to erase the word Susan. The Delete key erases letters to the right of the cursor. I'll now type in the word Nancy. There's also a mistake in the word facility. I'll bring my cursor to the word just after the letter X. I now press the backspace key to erase the letter X and type in the letter C. The backspace key erases letters to the left of the cursor. When I type in these letters, the text automatically moves to the left as I type. This is because I'm in insert mode. If I press the Insert key once, I'm now in Type Over mode. I can see this by looking down at the status bar, and the letters OVR are not grayed out. Now when I type in text, it types over the letters that are already entered. I've now finished editing my document, and I will save the file to the hard disk again. Move the mouse pointer to the File menu and click. And this time I'll select Save, as I've already given my name to my document. Word for Windows now saves the file to the hard disk. I'll now show you how to load or open or retrieve a file already saved to the hard disk. To do this, I'll choose File and New to clear my screen. Then I'll choose File, Open. I can see my bank letter on the hard disk. To reopen this letter, I can either type in the name of the letter with the extension doc, or I can select it by clicking on it with my mouse. I then choose OK to load the document.
In Lesson 2, we have seen how to create a document, type in text, edit text, and save documents to the hard disk. We have also looked at loading documents from the hard disk. Now stop this video and take the opportunity to review all items of interest.
In Lesson 3, I'll show you how to print the document. Now, there are a number of ways to print documents, but before I show you, there are a few things I must explain. There are 3 things to remember when printing. The first is to choose the printer you wish to print to. The second is to use Print Preview, and then finally, to print it. To select a printer in Word for Windows, choose File and then Print. Then select Printer, which brings up the Print Setup dialog box. Here we can see which printer drivers have been installed in our machine. The list of printers might differ from the list you will see on your machine. If we don't see any printer listed, or we don't see the correct printer installed, then we must install a new printer driver. To do so, we use the Microsoft Windows printer program to install or choose a new printer. To do this, we move to the title bar's icon and click, and then choose Switch to. This brings up the task list dialog box. Then choose the Program Manager. Open up the main group, and then double-click on the control panel. The Windows control panel then appears, and we open up the Printers icon. We then see the printer's installation box. You will be familiar with the installation of printers if you have viewed the Computer Advanced Guide to Windows 3.1. If the printers are not listed, we then choose the Add button, which will display a list of printers. We can scroll through the list and select the relevant printer. Windows will then ask you for a Windows installation disk. Windows will then copy the relevant information from the floppy disk onto the hard disk. Now we need to see if the printer output port is set correctly. If it is not, choose Connect, and then choose the relevant printer port. If the printer is not listed, or if a disk came with the printer, we should use that disk, or we should choose a printer that is emulated by our printer. But don't worry, as all this information will be in your printer manuals. If our printer installation information is correct, we should then choose Close to exit the Windows Printer Installation program. To return back into Word for Windows, either double-click on the control panel's title bar icon or double-click on the Word for Windows icon if it is now displayed as an icon on the bottom of the screen. To make sure we are now using the correct printer, we should choose File and then Print. Then select Printer and choose the correct printer, and then choose Close. Word for Windows is now using our selected printer to print our documents. Before we print our document, we should preview it first. That is to say, Word for Windows can display the document as it will appear printed using our selected printer. To preview a document, choose File and then Print Preview. This then brings up the document as it would be printed. You can see there are a few new icons on the toolbar, so let's go through them now. The first icon will print our document. The second will magnify areas of our document. The next buttons will view either one page at a time or multiple pages. This area here allows us to zoom in and out of our document. This area here turns off the view ruler. The button will shrink the document to fit the page. And this button will show the document in full screen. But we'll now choose Close. If everything looks fine and we've made all our edits, we can then choose to print our document. There are a number of ways to print our document, either by choosing the Print icon or by choosing File and then Print. When we choose File and Print, the Print dialog box will then appear. In this dialog box, we can see which printer we are using, what we are going to print, the number of copies, the range, and we can choose the current page or a selection of pages. We can also select a different printer. Everything is fine now, so we will select OK. Word for Windows then displays a dialog box telling us that it is now printing the document. And that's all there is to printing a document.
In Lesson 3, we have looked at printing a document. We have also looked at the Print Preview feature and also how to install a new printer. Now stop this video and take the opportunity to review all items of interest.
In Lesson 4, we will look at how a document can be displayed by using different fonts, justifying margins, centering text, creating page breaks, and inserting page numbers. When we want to change how a word or phrase looks, we have to highlight or block the text. This is telling Word for Windows that we want to work with that piece of text. To block the text, we move the mouse pointer to the beginning of the text, and then by holding down the left mouse button, we move the mouse pointer on top of the word or phrase we want to block. As you can see, this puts a black box around the piece of text. This is called blocking the text. We are then able to do a number of things with this text. We can increase its size or make it bold. If we want to take the bold off the text, all we do is click on the bold button again. When we click anywhere else on the document, the text becomes now deselected. We can also select text using our keyboard. Bring the cursor to the beginning of the text, and while holding down the Shift key, we use the cursor keys to highlight to the end of the sentence. I can now make this sentence italic. Another way to select some text is to move the mouse to the left-hand side of the screen. The mouse pointer changes into a right pointing arrow. I can now choose lines of text by clicking and holding down the left mouse button and dragging it. This area is called the Style area. If I double-click in the Style area, it will select the whole paragraph. There are 3 ways to select text: by using the mouse in the editing area, or in the Style area, or by using the keyboard. Now let's make a number of changes to our piece of text. We'll bold Overdraft Facility by choosing the text, bringing the mouse pointer to the beginning of Overdraft, and by dragging it over Facility. Now select the B, or Bold button. And the text is now bold. The address in the top corner of the letter looks jagged, so we'll right justify it. Select the text by moving into the Style area, and then choose the Right Justify button. That does not look too good. So we will now center it. The address is now centered. We will fully justify the body of our letter by selecting the text and choosing the Full Justify button. This can all be displayed to you because Word for Windows displays all text as graphics. In a normal text word processor, the text is displayed in the same way, same size and font, no matter what size font you're using. Because Word for Windows displays text as graphics, it can increase the size of text and change it, making it wider or taller, just like changing a font. We are now going to underline Soaked by choosing the text and selecting the Underline button. Finally, we are going to make the address bold by selecting the text and then selecting the Bold button. Instead of using the mouse, we could have selected the text and then pressed Control and the B key. Control I will give you italics, and Control U will give you underlined. By selecting these keystrokes again, we could remove bold from the text. Another quick way to block or highlight your document is to choose the Extend key, or F8 key. If we press the F8 key once, it brings us into Extend mode, and EXT is displayed in the status line. If we press the F8 key a second time, it will highlight the word to the right of the cursor. If we press the F8 key a third time, it will highlight the whole sentence. If we press the F8 key a fourth time, it will highlight the whole paragraph. And if you press the F8 key a fifth and final time, it will highlight the whole document. Now with the whole document highlighted, let's move up to the Format menu and choose Paragraph. In this dialog box, there are a number of options. Let's move over to line spacing and change the spacing to 1.5. Now when we choose OK, we can see the document has changed. The spacing between the lines has increased. We'll now just take that spacing off our text. Now let's look at formatting text in a bit more detail. Let's open a new document and start typing in some text. If we now want the next line to appear in bold, we can choose the bold button and everything after we type will be in bold. We can mix styles by pressing the italic key at the same time. Now when we type, the text is in bold and italic. We can mix different styles of text on any line. We can also justify our text as we're typing. For example, by pressing the center button, all the text we now type will be center justified. On the next line, we could have fully justified text. This is the normal way that you would enter text in your document. Let's now look at copying and moving text and putting borders around text. Load in the document that we have saved by selecting File, Open. If the document was already in memory, we could have just chosen Window and then the name of the document. First of all, let's change the type style for the whole document. Let's choose the whole document by pressing the F8 key 5 times. Then we will move up to the ribbon toolbar and choose the Type Style down arrow. We now have a list of all the type styles we have available to us. A different set of type styles might appear if you have a different printer installed. I'll now choose Bookman, and now the font for the whole document is changed. We can also choose a different size of text by moving up to the ribbon toolbar again, and over to the size, and press the down arrow. I'll choose 14 point. We could have also moved up to the Format menu and then chosen Font. The Font dialog box then appears where we can choose all the different fonts and sizes for our text. We won't spend any time looking at this dialog box, but you can look at it yourself on your own computer. One thing to remember is that the more points in a font, the larger the character will be. Now let's put a border around the center of our text. We'll choose the text we want to work with. Now move up to the Format menu and choose Border and Shading. A new dialog box has appeared on the screen. On the center left, we see the border size and what has been selected. If we choose a different type of border, for example a shadow, this will appear in this preview window. In the center of our dialog box, we can see that we have different sizes of lines. We'll now choose a light double line style. On the top left of our dialog box, we can choose to have no border, a box, or a shadow on our border. We'll now choose OK, and we can see that a border has appeared around our text. If the border was too large, we can use the ruler to increase and decrease the margin. We can also choose the File menu and then choose Page Setup. In this dialog box, we can choose from a number of settings. The first is our margin. We can change the top, bottom, left and right margins and apply it to the whole document or from this point forward. If we choose the Paper Size tab, we can choose to have a different orientation, either portrait or landscape. We can also choose a different paper size. Select OK, And then let's look at a number of other features. If our document is quite a large document, we might want to put page numbers on each page. This is quite simply done by selecting the Insert menu and then selecting Page Numbers. The Page Number dialog box then appears. We can position the page number in either the header or footer on the left, right, or center of the page. The Format option allows us to change the numbering scheme by using numbers, letters, or Roman numerals, and we can start at particular pages. This is very useful if you have a number of pages in your document. As you are typing, you might want to move on to a different page. To do this, you can create a new page by pressing Ctrl and Enter at the same time, where you wish the page break to appear, or by inserting a page break. To insert a page break, move up to the Insert menu and then choose Break and select OK. One of the most important features of any word processor is the ability to copy or move the text. This is very easily done in Word for Windows. Just select the text you wish to copy and then choose the Edit menu. Choose Copy, then place the cursor where you wish the text to appear. Then select the Edit menu and select Paste. Your copied text will then appear. You can move text in the same way by first choosing your text, then select the Edit menu and choose Cut. Then place your cursor where you wish your text to appear and select Edit, Paste. You have now moved the text. You can also use the toolbar to do the same thing. Let's cut some text and then paste it to the end of the document. Another way to move the text is to use drag and drop. Select the text and then when the mouse pointer changes back to an arrow, click the left mouse button and drag the text to where you wish it to appear. The final way to cut, copy, and paste is to use the keyboard. To cut, press the Shift and Delete keys or press Ctrl and X. To copy, press the Ctrl and Insert or press Ctrl and C. And to paste, press Shift and Insert or Ctrl and V.
In Lesson 4, we have looked at the different type styles that are available. We have learned how to change our margins, justify text, center text, create borders and shadows, insert page breaks, and insert page numbering. Now stop this video and take the opportunity to review all items of interest.
In Lesson 5, we'll look at some of the Word for Windows utilities, the spell checker, the thesaurus, and we'll search and replace some information. I've brought up my document I've typed earlier. There are a few mistakes in this document. I'll use the spell checker to check the spelling of my document. We can access the spell checker in two ways, either by the toolbar or by selecting the Tools menu and then choose Spelling. The spell checker dialog box then appears. At the bottom of the window, we can see we are using a particular dictionary. We can change the name of this dictionary and create a custom dictionary, for example. If not, just leave it the way it is. The Word for Windows spell checker will start searching from where the cursor is placed in the document. When it comes to the end of the document, it will then ask you to start searching at the beginning of the document again. Usually with place names, it does not understand. We can either change the place name, or add it to the dictionary, or ignore it. If we choose Ignore All, it will ignore all instances of that word or phrase throughout the whole document. Change All will modify all instances of that word or phrase throughout the document. We'll choose Ignore. When Word for Windows finds a word misspelled, or it thinks it is misspelled, it suggests a number of alternatives. We can choose one of these suggestions, or type in a new spelling, or choose Ignore. In this case, pleasant is spelled incorrectly, and we'll choose Change. When we have completed spell checking the document, choose OK. If we look at the main body of our text, we can still see that there are still a number of errors. Word for Windows makes a best guess at errors throughout a document, but it is not foolproof. It is important that you do proofread your document after you've used the spell checker, and then edit any words which are misspelt. When the spell checker finds a misspelt word, it goes and searches its dictionary for words that sound similar. In this way, you get a best guess. If you're not good at spelling, just type in a word that sounds the same, and Word for Windows Spell Checker will tell you all the words which sound similar to that word which you typed in. In this way, Word for Windows helps you to spell words correctly. If you add words to the dictionary, the size will increase with the words that are specific to you and your company's needs. In this way, Word for Windows will learn the proper nouns and place names that you use. One other useful utility is the thesaurus. There are times when you know a similar word, but you are unable to find the correct one. Word for Windows Thesaurus helps you. First of all, type in the word. I'll type in the word document. Then move up to the Tools menu and then choose Thesaurus, and the Thesaurus dialog box will appear. On the top left corner of the dialog box is the name that we are looking up. Underneath, we have a number of different meanings for that word. On the right-hand side, we have a number of synonyms. We can choose a different synonym, and once we are happy that that is correct, we choose Replace. You will find that using the thesaurus will take some of the headache out of creating documents. The final thing I'd like to show you in this lesson is the Search and Replace function. This function is extremely useful if you're creating large documents. If we want to find the first instance of a particular word, move up to the Edit menu and then choose Find. In this dialog box, we type in the word we want to find, and then we can search either up or down the document, or match the case either by using uppercase or lowercase. If we now choose Find Next, it will find the next occurrence of that word or phrase that we type in. By choosing Find Next again, it will find the second instance of the word or phrase, and so on. This is useful for finding one or two words through the document, but if you have a number of instances where a word appears and you want to replace or change the word, it's easier to use the Search and Replace feature. You will find the Search and Replace feature in the Edit menu. Select Replace, and now we can type in either a word or phrase to find. Once we have typed in that word or phrase, we can insert the word or phrase we want to replace it with. Once we have typed in these words, we can either choose Find Next, which will find the next occurrence of that word, or Replace All, which will substitute all the words with the new words automatically throughout the document. This feature is extremely useful in large documents.
In Lesson 5, we have looked at Word for Windows Utilities, the Spell Checker, the Thesaurus, and we have used the Search and Replace feature. Now stop this video and take the opportunity to review all items of interest.
In Lesson 6, we will look at the Word for Windows Help feature. If you're familiar with Microsoft Windows, you'll have no problem using the Help feature in Word for Windows, as it uses the Windows Help program. This Help feature is context sensitive. Context sensitive means that whatever you're doing, by pressing the F1 key, you'll get help on what you're doing. For example, if we go to the Format menu and press F1, we get help on formatting the font. Let's now go through help. If we press F1, we find a number of words or phrases in green or highlighted and underlined. This means that when we select it, we will actually move through the help contents, finding more information about that word or phrase. And as you can see, we have more help about the overview of the word workplace. When we see the word highlighted but having a dotted underline, it means that if we place our mouse pointer on that word or phrase and click, we will get more help on that word or phrase. If we want to move back a position, we can choose the Back button. Choosing Search will allow us to search for a word or phrase throughout the Word for Windows help contents. If we want help on formatting a section, we type in Format, and then we can use the scroll bars to move down to that phrase. If we then choose Show Topics, a list of topics will appear, and we can select the relevant topic and then choose Go To. This will bring up the relevant information. If we select Contents, it will bring up the index, and the History button will bring up a list of previously chosen commands. If you're new to Word for Windows, use this help feature. It will cut down your learning curve dramatically. If there is a feature you're working on, choose Bookmark, which means that when you press the F1 key again, you will be brought back to that section. By using help, it'll make your day a lot easier.
In Lesson 6, we have looked at Word for Windows context-sensitive help.
This is the end of the CompuTutor Introduction to Microsoft Word for Windows. If you're now familiar with all the features mentioned in this video tutorial, I would like to invite you to view the CompuTutor Advanced Guide to Microsoft Word for Windows. If you're finished using Word for Windows, you should exit Windows properly by moving to the Program Manager and press Alt F4, or by selecting the Program Manager title bar icon and choose Close. By the way, I hope you've enjoyed using this video. I trust you'll find that using the CompuTutor Video Tutor series makes learning your applications more enjoyable and a lot easier. Congratulations on completing this video tutorial. Goodbye.